Hey everybody, Hashem here with Flat Fee Landlord Property Management, serving Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., and Maryland. Today I want to touch on a popular question, which is how to vet or run a background screening on a tenant applicant. So I want to go over the 10-step process of what you want to go through when you receive a tenant applicant for your Northern Virginia rental home. So something that we do here is called the Perfect Tenant. And the reason we call it the Perfect Tenant is because we have a perfect 10-step process that allows us to vet and run background checks on prospective tenant applicants, which allow us for success while they're in our property. And it weeds out the great tenants from the not so great tenants, and it's really reliable and something I recommend whenever you're thinking about accepting an application on a tenant. So to start off, the perfect tenant. Step one, you're going to want to check the applicant's credit history and credit score. The credit score, obviously, the higher the better. If they have a history of paying their bills on time and paying them at all, then you're going to have hopefully good experience with them paying their rent and paying their rent on time as well. You also want to check how much credit they have and how long they've been doing it, because again, what they have done in the past should hopefully be a good indicator of the future while they're renting from you. Step two, check eviction history. And you can do that many different ways, different programs, checking public records, but you're going to want to see if the tenant has ever been taken to court by a landlord for a numerous amount of things, whether it's not paying rent, going through the eviction process, complaints, whatever the case may be. You're going to want to see if they have either gone through the eviction process or been actually evicted, and obviously if they have, that's probably not going to be a good fit for you and your property. Step three, to piggyback off that, you're going to also want to check their past rental history. So you'll see where they've rented and see how those things went. Have they always paid their rent on time? Did they leave with their full security deposit? Those are things you're going to want to check with their rental history. Step four, you're going to want to verify their income. Do they have the funds to pay the rent? And that's important if you want to make sure you're getting your rent on time. Step five, ID verification. Is this person that's applying the person that they say they are? You want to make sure you're making every attempt to weed out any instances of identity theft. So by doing so, you can obviously run their name through any system, but on top of that, at the very least, you may want to get a copy of their driver's license to verify they say who they say they are. Step six, you're going to want to check their debt to income ratio. And this is important because even if they have a good earnings and you've checked their credit, you want to make sure that after they get paid and they pay all their outstanding debts, that they still have money to be able to pay your rent as well as make a living with whatever's left over. Because if they have a small, if they don't have a whole lot of money left over after they've paid all their debts, they may be struggling to make your rental payment, and eventually you may get in a situation where they just stop paying the rent altogether. Step seven, interview previous landlords that they've had in the past. You want to check with the people that have been landlords for this applicant in the past and ask how their experience was. Were they good tenants? Would you rent to them again? Would you recommend me renting to them? What kind of issues did you have? Did you have any issues? Did they always pay their rent on time? How many times were they late? Were you able to ever inspect the property and make sure that they were treating the property with respect? Were you able to refund the full security deposit? Did they give you enough notice that they were going to be ending this lease? Those are all questions you're going to want to ask the previous landlords, because if you're going to be their landlord, you want to make sure they had a good experience with somebody else. Step 8 is going to be a resident verification. So, and on top of all of the other items in history that you're checking, if they put down in their applicant that they lived at a certain place, a resident verification is going to verify that yes, indeed, they did live there, and yes, indeed, this was their landlord and not somebody they've just made up. Step 9 is going to be checking the criminal history, and obviously, when you check their criminal history, you see if they have had any history, and if they have, what kind. If it's the type that you don't want in your property, and you don't want to lead to any criminal activities in the future, that's something you want to consider when accepting this applicant. And step 10 of the Perfect Tenant is going to be employment verification. And you're going to want to know this for a certain number of things. A, it's good to know where they're employed, so if you have to get in touch with them when you're having issues with getting in touch with them, you can go through the employment. But also, if in a worst case scenario, all these things went bad, or you went through all these background checks and everything, and you still had to evict them, and you need to recoup lost rent, you can at times do wage garnishment. And the only way to do that is to know where they're employed, so that way you can get any wage garnished back to you. So that's our Perfect 10. That's how we vet and get the finest tenants. If you have any questions on how that works, or in terms of property management in general, feel free to give us a call. You can also check out our website at www.flatfeelandlord.com.